Hello and welcome to The Backlash. I'm your host, David J. Riley. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've got a great show for you. Got a really wonderful guest, some excellent topics that we'll be getting to. But first, make sure that you like this video, share it with your friends, make sure that you're following us on all of our platforms. Of course, we are on X at Real Backlash. You can find our website, thebacklash.net. You can support this show at subscribestar.com/thebacklash, patreon.com/thebacklash. If you want to send in a super chat, you can do that at thebacklash.net/superchat. Of course, you can always send in a Rumble rant here on our Rumble channel, Backlash Podcast, our YouTube channel, Real Backlash. You can find all of our platforms on our website, thebacklash.net/subscribe. So thank you so much for joining us today. It's going to be really great. First, though, we do have to thank all of the wonderful sponsors that help make this show possible. First up, of course, is our friends at ODGG Supply Military Surplus. Whether you're going blanky mode or tactical mode, whether you need night vision goggles or a tent, ODGG Supply has got you covered with the finest military surplus in the Pacific Northwest. You can visit odggsupply.com and get yourself outfitted for any kind of scenario, whether you're trying to like fight your way back from the office because some crazy leftists like shut down the highway, whatever. odggsupply.com. Use promo code BACKLASH14 and you'll save 14% off select items. Of course, Above Time Coffee Roasters, small batch, premium, hand-roasted, pro-white coffee company based out of Pennsylvania. You can use promo code BACKLASH10. You'll get 10% off your order. It looks like they're selling soap now, too. I guess they've got a new collaboration with Dissident Soaps, which is fine, because we've got our own soap sponsor, North Idaho Tallow Company at idahotallow.com. They've got premium skincare products, soap, skincare, lip balm, candles, all made without endocrine disruptors. You can visit their website at idahotallow.com. Another great sponsor, Antelope Hill Publishing. They're fighting to keep history alive amidst a regime of anti-white censorship. You can visit antelopehillpublishing.com. Use promo code BACKLASH10. You get 10% off. And of course, if you are like me and you're concerned that your money is about to be worth less tomorrow than it is today, you might want to consider getting some gold and silver at atlasbullion.com/thebacklash. They've got gold and silver subscriptions that help you stack precious metals the easy way. Visit atlasbullion.com, or you could just visit the show notes in the comments below, or whatever, the show notes below. We've got all the links to all of our sponsors. They're also on our website, thebacklash.net/affiliates. You can get all outfitted up there and support the show and get some great products while you're at it. So anyway, now that that's all done and over, contractual obligations have been fulfilled. There's been a lot going on in this country, and one of those things has been this kind of flight from the cities. I did it myself. I was living in South Bend, Indiana, and the George Floyd riots kicked off, and there were protests outside of my apartment, and it started to feel a lot less safe living in the city. It didn't seem like the kind of place where I wanted to start a family, raise my kids. Just the crime is out of control in this country. We've got anarcho-tyranny, criminals just being let out by these corrupt liberal prosecutors. And so people living in the cities, people in Seattle, in Portland, in California, have been making the move, coming here to North Idaho. This has been a big deal. We've been talking about this on the show for, since the show has started, actually. And, it's so interesting to see this type of movement. Our work in the office, it seems like it's meaningless anymore. Just pushing papers around, pushing buttons for the sake of it. And a lot of these jobs are getting replaced by AI. Just a couple of weeks ago, Oracle, one of the biggest data centers in the country, just laid off 30,000 people. And that's going to be affecting a lot more, tax, people that do taxes, people that do bookkeeping, newspapers. It's hitting every facet of society. And so as human beings and human work is being replaced by AI, people are looking for something with more meaning. People have been kind of flocking towards homesteading. And so joining us today is Michael Thomas, the founder of the Catholic Land Movement.
Thanks for having me, Dave. I'm excited to talk to you today.
Yeah, this is great. So how did you get involved in this to begin with? When did the Catholic Land Movement start?
It's always good to start out an interview with a correction. So the first correction is I am not the founder. I picked up the Catholic Land Movement, which is an institution and an association that existed 100 years ago in England.
Oh, wow.
And so the Catholic Land Movement was around 100 years ago. The contemporary movement really just picked up the rubrics for social action, the principles, and applied them again.
Oh, wow.
So I'm the contemporary, maybe part of a team of people who helped the contemporary resurrected land movement take shape. But I'm not we stand on an intellectual patrimony.
All right, I stand corrected.
No,
I stand corrected. This is good.
We're here to clarify.
Who started the Catholic Land Movement?
All right, so the Catholic Land Movement, for people who are familiar with Catholic social doctrine, the Catholic Land Movement is a scheme of social action that grew out of a reaction to Rerum Novarum. And Rerum Novarum was a encyclical, the first modern encyclical written by Pope Leo XIII, in which he responds to two major things that were going on in the world at the time. One, the consequences of the Industrial Revolution, and two, the horrors of communism, right? So the Pope looks at these two things, the massive deaths and the absolute disorder of the various communist revolutions, and he looks at the consequences of industrialism, and he says, hey, we need a better way forward. The church needs to give people clear ideas of what a good social order looks like. We need to give them clear principles. And he writes this encyclical. It's the first time a pope addresses social teaching broadly to the common person. So
that's it. And the other thing that's super interesting about Rerum Novarum is that it was happening at a time of industrial revolution. Right.
1891.
The Luddites were running around blowing. They're like, if we let these looms in, humans will be totally non-important anymore. We got to blow up these factories. And like I was saying in the intro, it's we're kind of getting to a very similar point today. So I think it's super interesting that the Catholic Land Movement is having this resurgence right around now. And I feel like a lot of the social conditions are very similar. We see like this rise in far left ideology, socialism, communism, CHOP for those people that were like living in Seattle during the Summer of Love. So it is fascinating. And it's also super interesting too that we have a new Pope, Pope Leo XIV, who chose his name based on Leo XIII in an effort to kind of carry on. And I think we're going to be seeing his first encyclical coming out pretty soon, which is supposed to be on AI, which is going to be really interesting. And I think we're going to get into the social teaching and some of the economic ideas of Catholicism. There's been a lot of misinformation I've been seeing around the internet recently, especially there has been like this week, there was this big spat between the president and the Pope, and they were kind of going back and forth, trading barbs with each other on social media. So I'm sure we'll get into all of that, but what does the Catholic land movement do for people? And is it only for Catholics? Can non-Catholics find ways to participate in this? Or is it like exclusive? You have to be Catholic to participate? And then like, what does the organization actually do for people once they join or once they link up with like a local chapter?
So back to that encyclical. That encyclical lays out principles for what good social order is, and it establishes a natural law argument for a right to property. It says we have a right to its productive use that precedes the rights of any state. It says that we have right to dignified labor. We have right to association to protect the preceding rights, and that the social order, the civic authority, has a responsibility to take care of the least among us, the marginalized, the poor. We can't leave those people behind as Catholics.
Right.
And so he establishes those 5 major points, and the land movement is an attempt to give a rubric for social action and a practical framework to apply that. So you'll see in our mission work that we kind of touch on those 5 points, or at least the first 4 quite extensively right in our mission statement, which you'll find right there. The Catholic land movement exists to facilitate the rural resettlement of Catholics onto productive property which they own. Right there, you're covering like half, if not, the majority of Rerum Novarum. We have property ownership. Mm-hmm. We have productive property, right? You can't just own a piece of land. You have to actually have skills, means of production, tools, know-how, community association. You have to have these things to make your property productive. And then the Catholic part, right? We all of this happens within a Catholic ontology that glorifies God. It's not motivated by some type of liberal materialistic humanism or something like this. It's motivated by the moral teachings of the church and the social doctrine of the church. So the land movement is a practical expression of the principles laid out in Rerum Novarum for the Catholic laity. And so the Catholic laity, we have a responsibility to shape the civic order. We believe in this division where the ecclesiastical are carrying the apostolic sacraments, they're carrying the dogmas of the church, but they're separate from the civic order. Mm-hmm. That priests are set apart in the world of Catholicism. And it's us, it's the laity, you and I, Dave, who have the responsibility to shape the civic order towards the kingship of Christ. This is a schematic. The Catholic land movement is an attempt to aggregate bottom-up social power to shape society in the image of Catholic social doctrine. We operate in 4 major pillars, which are right there again for your audience. We help Catholics resettle. You said you yourself went through a resettlement process. I bet we could spend the rest of this interview with you talking about
the learning curve.
Yeah, the learning curve. So that's the first thing that we do is we kind of help coach people, talk to people to make sure that they're engaged in the virtues that as they make a move to a rural place, either as a single person or mostly we deal with families, that they're doing it in a way that helps bring good order to their family, helps bring good order to their spiritual life, helps develop the virtues in them. So that's the first thing we do. The second thing we do, it's what most people know us for, is that we put on public education events. I like Big Tom's right there, teaching people about how to put in wells in that picture, which is a great one. But so education is what we know as the public-facing side of the land movement. So I'm here in North Idaho, because I'm going to give a talk about the land movement. It's going to be a public event. You asked, can anybody participate? I'm not stopping people at the door and saying like recite the Nicene Creed or you don't get in. The door's open if you want to come and learn about this stuff. But what you'll find is that we educate in one side Catholic principles, and on the other side the practical skills that are necessary to possess productive property, right? I can give you an axe, I can give you a forest, but if you don't go and get the skills, link yourself to the traditions, you won't build a house out of that. You'll just have an axe and a forest. And so we connect people to the traditions and the skills in our education kind of thinking. Agrarianism was at its height when people had robust peer-to-peer networks teaching each other skills. They weren't learning things on YouTube. They weren't paying a lot of money for classes from gurus. They weren't getting certificates from universities to learn things. You would learn how to butcher a pig, how to keep a crop, how to make cheese. You would learn all these things from your neighbors, your cousins, your uncles. We are, through our education platform, building, once again, the occasions, usually in events, public-facing events, where people can exchange those skills locally on a peer-to-peer level.
See, that's so odd. This has been something that I've been kind of beating the drum on this show a lot, and that is we've lost social fabric in this country.
Yes.
Everybody's been atomized. We're all driving around in our cars,
Yes.
listening to our podcasts, and we're all in these different purchase funnels. You've got the Candace Owens people who hate the Mark Levin people. People are skeptical of Tucker Carlson. And everything has been fragmented. And those social structures that used to exist to help build consensus in the community, apart from government, has been obliterated, and also because of the social engineering that's taken place in this country. The mass internal migration, Philadelphia, even the highway system. I was arguing with somebody the other day about Eisenhower and the highway system. It totally destroyed Catholic neighborhoods in places like Chicago.
Yes.
And so we're kind of living in the fallout of that, plus the fallout from the revolutions of the 1960s. And so it's nice to be seeing somebody out there doing this, trying to rebuild social cohesion and social fabric kind of outside of this top-down government thing.
Yeah. So the entire idea, one of the guiding motivators of the land movement is that we are aggregating and associating bottom-up power for the Catholic shaping of the civic order.
Mm-hmm.
That we're not focusing so much in America. You get this kind of type of political binary and various factions. Even the nature of democracy itself necessitates the majority rule, which you get all kinds of odd bedfellows, and you have to kind of always have the majority to move the needle from the top down. And so the land movement puts all that aside. Even further than anything else, even red hat, blue hat, it puts aside, and it says to the common people, "Hey, we're both Catholics. Wouldn't it be great if we could come together and have an event where we helped each other plant 100 trees on my property, and then I go plant 100 trees on your property?" Focusing, there's bridges of unity to be focused on when you're actually doing things. If you and I show up at a work day, is a great example. We show up at a work day and they're pushing up a timber frame bent for somebody's barn. We're in such a disaster state in modernity, right? that if I show up to that timber frame bent going up, am I going to stop and say to the guy next to me on the pole, "Hey, are you into Candace Owens?" I'm going to grab the pole.
You're not a Democrat, are you?
Right.
I don't wanna...
No, we're gonna keep pushing up that pole together until that bent goes up, Yeah. And so the idea is that the Catholic land movement creates moments where those associations can build, and we can again restore the local civic fabric, where people are once again grounded and supporting one another in productive property, and perhaps then we can kind of diffuse some of those political binaries. Unfortunately, some of them that exist amongst Catholics even. We can diffuse some of those, and we can actually get back to our real mission, our real duty as laity, which is the shaping of the civic order for the kingship of Christ, which is something we should all be agreeing on. So,
I think this is sounding an awful lot like integralism. Is this the dreaded integralism that I've been hearing about?
This is the dreaded integralism. Yeah.
Can you unpack that a little bit? What is integralism? Where did this? I know this is a big apple to take a bite out of, but
so from the land movement perspective, integralism would be getting into political thought. right? Integralism is, for people who don't know, integralism is an application of Catholic social doctrine, the teachings of the church, which has commentary and things to say about the political order, how politics are organized. For the land movement, and this is that, so when I think about the state or I think about civic authority, what really is top-down power? Top-down power is power that's enforced, that if you don't do the thing, Dave, you break the speed limit, you don't pay the tax, whatever, a guy with a gun's going to show up and stop you.
Right.
That's top-down power. Who controls the guy with the gun? Who controls the policy? Who controls that? But essentially, top-down power is who controls the monopoly of violence held by the civic authority. The land movement actually isn't too concerned about that. So integralism might approach the political questions more than land movement would. What I'm interested with land movement is, where do you buy your food from? How do you cook your food?
Right.
Who do you share meals with? What's the fabric of your civic association around you?
Yeah.
What house do you live in? How's it built? Where do the materials come from? How do you consume media? Do you take the violin off the wall, or do you click on the latest? I don't know, whatever they listen to on the boom box or whatever.
The boom box.
The land movement is concerned with associating and aggregating and creating opportunity for bottom-up power between Catholics to then affect and shape the civic order. And so we aggregate and associate that bottom-up power through the social doctrine of the church, which, if we go to that social doctrine of the church, there's three major things. We have the common good. So we look for expressions of the common good. Subsidiarity, meaning that we don't leave people behind. And I'm not sorry, I messed it up.
That's okay. Go for it.
I said solidarity, subsidiarity. Subsidiarity is the principle that a higher authority shouldn't interfere with a lower authority.
Yes.
Right.
And solidarity.
Yeah, and solidarity. So again, just to make it clear, unless you can edit out my stutter, and if you can't, I'm not used to this in the studio and the rest of it. But again, common good, subsidiarity, and solidarity. Those are the three guiding principles, and that's what the land movement kind of organizes on. The other three things that the land movement works through is an integration of land, community, and God. And so subsidiarity is saying that a higher authority shouldn't interfere in the functions of a lower authority unnecessarily. Meaning, like, if I have a piece of property and I can grow my food on it, there's no reason why the civic authority should come down and tell me I shouldn't. Right.
Or that, the federal government shouldn't be coming in to fix your potholes when, you could do it with, a bag of cement.
Right. Exactly. And so the land movement is a real expression throughout our chapter network of people focusing on an integration of land, community, and God, that we're trying to approach basic things, food, water, shelter. We are trying to create local association that approaches those things, and through that approach is an exercise of subsidiarity, where there's not some big thing. We're just local people solving our problems on a local level. Yeah. And so it takes skill, it takes property, it takes capital, it takes resources. The land movement is kind of aggregating and associating those things. And so that's it. I think makes it somewhat clear, what we're trying to. We organize in chapters. Those chapters, there's over. You can probably bring up the map.
Yes, we do. We have the map. Look at this. You're all over the place. And you showed me before we went on. You're actually all over the place. You've got a couple of chapters in Australia, some in Europe.
Yep.
And all over America, South America.
Yep.
This is great.
Yep. So we're not, sometimes people watch the land movement and they think that, I know there's some of these kind of misguided attempts from various entities that are we're going to all compound up in a compound and sit on a can of beans with a shotgun. And I always bring this up. This is, more casual conversation, but I always bring up, do you know what the Fermi paradox is?
No.
The Fermi. Anyway, it's this paradox. I'm probably saying the word wrong, but it's this paradox. If alien civilizations exist all over the galaxies, why have we not heard from any of them? Right. So I'm not well, this is not what I'm putting on the table. What I am putting on the table is if these breakaway, communities where people sit on a can of beans and hide from the world, if these work as a coherent reaction to modernity, then where are they?
Right.
Why are they not? Show me one that's functional and that I wanted. That's not something like Pig and Wacko or something like. Show me.
Right.
They don't exist.
And we have like intimate experience of this in North Idaho. Like we have learned these. Hopefully, we've learned these lessons. The Randy Weaver, Ruby Ridge debacle that happened up here in the early '90s. Like guy wants to be left alone, goes in the woods, and the federal government shows up at his door, kills his wife, kills his kid, and then throws him in jail. It's like, okay, that doesn't work. Okay, we need some other way.
Right, and so the Catholic land movement is organizing through people right where they are with their associations, not saying like, you have to sell your stuff and join our compound. You just need to begin to associate and reestablish those relationships that modernity and industrialism has frayed, those relationships with your neighbors where you guys are going to get together and butcher a pig, or you guys are going to get together and celebrate a feast day, or you guys are going to get together and help each other plant a garden or build an outbuilding or whatever. The Catholic land movement is reestablishing associations like that throughout a broad network, and you have to start from where you are with what you have, and that's what the Catholic land movement is doing, helping people take like the first step, right? Like come to this event. Learn how to butcher a chicken with us. Also, maybe the guy at that event is doing chickens commercially. Now you can buy chickens from a Catholic farmer. We have to start. The modernity has brought us to such a level of poverty that your average person is completely ill-equipped to actually take care of themselves. If you were to give them a piece of land or a well-functioning farm, they'd run it into the ground in a decade. We have to reestablish associations that are once again building up the virtues in people and building up the practical and anecdotal experiences that give them the skills so they can actually approach creating the just social order. Then that's how it builds. But it's all bottom up. We're very concerned with bottom up rather than top down, and that gives us the ability in the land movement to kind of avoid some of the political binaries and the other. I mean, they're there. You can have your opinions about that and function in the land movement, but they're not core to the mission of the land movement. We all know that just all we have to do is elect the right person, and everything will get better, right? We're all clear on that, right? So right. There's other stuff to do besides that, and the land movement is trying to do those things.
Yeah, and so that's the third this third pillar of the group of the movement, fellowship. The fourth is glorification. How does this fit in?
Right, so that's great. So fellowship is right. We're associating, we're building those things. We have the public-facing education events, and then behind the scenes, somewhat, the guys who show up to those events are going to start associating and building bonds in their community, and before you know it, you get a barn raising for Catholics. The glorification side of the Catholic land movement is that's a Catholic part of the Catholic land movement. That there is a right order, that there is truth, that we are here and our purpose is to glorify God. And he gave us an apostolic church, and that apostolic church carries the sacraments, and that's that inviting. Once we naturally order ourselves in our houses and grow in our food and stuff, then we invite that perfection of grace into the world, and that grace is held and transmitted through the Catholic Church. And so when you go to a land, you asked, I think maybe before or right as you turn maybe we've said it already when we turn the microphones on, but you said, is the Catholic land movement only for Catholics? Well, not necessarily. I'm not going to check you and be like, did you recite the Nicene Creed in Latin, before you come to a land movement event. But at a land movement event, we're going to butcher a pig, and then we're going to pray Vespers. We're going to have a cheese-making class that we're going to talk about an aspect of Catholic social doctrine and deepen your understanding of it as a Catholic. We're going to have a sauerkraut-making thing, and then have a rosary group and a bonfire, right? We're going to work with the liturgical calendar in the chapter. So anybody who's showing up to a land movement event is going to get exposed to Catholicism, that it happens within a Catholic ontological frame, and so it's not that somebody can't join it's not that they can't show up to events as a non-Catholic. You can totally show up to events as a non-Catholic. I mean, we even had people teach skills, you know, like there's somebody who runs a lumber mill. He's near me. He's a Presbyterian, you know, he likes what we're doing. The chapter leaders are friends with him. They want to host an event there where he teaches people, you know, how to run a small portable lumber mill. That's fine, as long as he's okay with us praying the rosary afterwards, you know. So that's just a shape of like what the boundaries are. But there are limits too. In order to become deeply associated or be a chapter lead or take on an official position there, you have to be a Catholic in good standing. It would be like a Jew joining the Knights of Columbus. It's like,
right.
That just doesn't happen, you know. So that's how the work. That's how the limits of the organization. You know,
sure.
Contemporary modernity, you know, convinces us that every organization needs to be this egalitarian expression, open to anyone. Our nations, anywhere else needs to be open. But having a limiting structure where we say, no, there is a moral truth. There is a theological truth. It's bounded by limits, you know. Yeah. That's what this organization respects. I think that's actually healthy for society to do those things. And the Catholic Land Movement does it through the Catholic faith.
Yeah. No, and I was going to say, you know, there's an aspect of integralism too, with your work and with, like, you know, working on a farm, or like I spent a couple of years volunteering at a Catholic priory, you know, like be cutting down trees and chopping wood for the wood stove, you know.
Great.
But it kind of takes this old Benedictine motto of ora et labora, prayer and work.
Yes.
And, you know, while you're working, your work is prayer. It's like the physical manifestation of your prayer.
Yes.
In a way. And so, like, when people are tending their chickens, it's like, it's not just that this is like meat product that will be consumed, you know, egg product or whatever. It's like, no, God made these creatures and I'm actually like a steward of it, you know, as opposed to like this big cage farm, you know, like just cramming as many animals and vaxing them up with all kinds of antibiotics and stuff like that. You know, it's a different way.
Yes. Our dominion over the created world demands from us good stewardship, you know, and we are, this world, you know, sings the glory of God, and we, in many ways, are the conductors. You know, we are here to conduct the symphony of the created world to the glory of God. God put it all together. He created the violins and the strings and everything else, but it's all just, they're not going to do anything. He gave us dominion to actually work this created world to further express his glory. And so I like if you continue to use the word integralism, and
I'm just doing it because it pisses off the right people.
It pisses off certain people. No, it's great. It's great. Like, Catholics are going to run everything, and that, but it's real. We are going to run everything. We've been running everything for a long time.
The Jesuits.
We built it too. So anyway, it's good to you know, understand. I'll get a little bit into it, but one of the core foundations of Catholic social doctrine is the idea that there is this. So I think people get integralism wrong. So this is why I'm bringing this up. There is a core distinction between ecclesiastical authority and civic authority. You'll never see a priest run as a mayor. Right? Bishops weren't kings in the Middle Ages.
Right.
Throne and altar. What integralism is, and very, very just like, so you're even maybe people in your audience I can help clarify. Integralism is when the ecclesiastical authority, who carries the apostolic sacraments, doctrine, dogmas, and the civic authority, and that's the important part, are both pointed towards the kingship of Christ. That they're both shaped by Catholic morality, they're shaped by Catholic doctrine, but they're pointed towards the kingship of Christ, two swords. That's a very simplistic understanding of Catholic integralism, but that civic authority, a priest isn't going to become a mayor, that's our job.
Right.
You know, the guilds regulated economy in the Middle Ages, right? That's our job to understand how those associations and various things manifest. It's when I say our job, I say, Dave, you and me as the laity, right? It is our job to shape the civic authority. And that civic authority, as we hold that the temporal sword, right? That sword should be pointed and should be honed for the kingship of Christ, and it should work in conjunction with the ecclesiastical authority. Yeah. And so that's integralism. That's very quick.
One of the ways that I kind of describe it to people that have never been exposed to the idea before is this: the church is to the state what the soul is to the body.
Sure.
that kind of gives a framework. Your soul is not, well, maybe sometimes the body is at war with your soul, but they should be working together in harmony as opposed to one another. The body and the soul should not be at war with one another. The state and the church should not be at war with one another. Right. They should be working together for the care of the souls of the. And this is something I talked about on a couple episodes ago, actually, with Wayne Hoffman. He's the founder of the IFF. And of course, I have ADD, so it's totally gone. This is one of the, they say ADD is a superpower. Sometimes it's not. Yeah, actually, I was about to make a great point, and then it's just poof, gone. But yeah, so there are other aspects of Catholic social teaching. I'm just going to move on. There are other aspects of Catholic social teaching, which have been coming up recently in some circles. It's been percolating. I've been seeing it in some of the private chats, at least in my area. What's this distributism stuff? Distributism, that's like communism, right? And then I saw a friend of mine on X recently posting, this Pope is Catholic or communist. This Pope is communist. Yeah, of course the Pope is Catholic. Hello, but accusing the Pope of being like communist for being against the war in Iran and stuff like this. Right. And so. Let's talk a little bit about this. Is Catholic doctrine communist?
Let's have a conversation about how the American mind is, the political imagination of the American has been put in such a box that if we're not like marching behind Dick Cheney, shooting the rest of the world, all of a sudden we're a communist, right? Yeah, right. No. So, yes. So distributism. Actually, the Catholic land movement grows out of the English distributist movement of the turn of the century. So for people who aren't familiar with distributism, it was a social philosophy that was a type of third position in the 1920s, 30s. The land movement actually was one of the most powerful practical expressions. And right there in distributism, we pulled up the wiki page, which is always the authority, right?
Of course.
But the first thing you get there is you see the slogan, 3 acres and a cow.
Right.
That what they're saying there is that every man should have 3 acres and a cow. And
As opposed to, what was the American ideal of that? 40 acres and a mule?
Yeah, something like that. So what is distributism? Let's take it from the refuting of the communist call, because that's always the thing that they say. Who's going to do the distributing? You communist. Let's talk about. Well, I don't even want to do the language thing of they're misinterpreting distributism. Let's just do the communist bit. So what is the tenets? Chapter 1, 2, and 3 of the Communist Manifesto, right? What do they say in their reaction to industrialism? What's the right path, right? They say we're going to revoke the right to private property. That's chapter 1. Chapter 2 is we are going to abolish the family. Chapter 3 is we're going to abolish God. Those we're going to abolish religion, abolish the family, and abolish private property. The Catholic land movement, or distributism, is saying that the path to the just society is private property, the family, the state grounded as the family as the basic unit, all framed within a morality that rests on God and Jesus Christ's revelation to the world. That's so. Distributism, unlike free market liberalism, which was often offered as the alternative to communism, distributism is an actual point-by-point refute of communism in a stronger way than any liberal ideas. If we have completely libertarian free markets, that experiment has been tried in the world. And what happened? Property consolidated into monopolies, and there became the necessity to create higher levels of civic authority to actually regulate those monopolies. I mean, that's where we get so much of the regulatory bodies in our government from in the contemporary moment, right? So whether you have free market liberalism or you have communism, free market liberalism creates a situation where things condense into, where private property condenses into the hand of the few in monopolies, but you have this consolidation of property and capital in free market liberalism, and you have a consolidation of property and capital in communism, in the idolatry of the state, right? The state becomes the thing. In distributism, What we're saying is, I would label myself a distributist, we are saying that the good social order is one in which property is widely held by as many people as possible. It's widely distributed.
Right. Decentralized is, I guess, another kind of word that we could put in here.
Everybody has your wage enables you. I mean, how many people from our generation can't own a home? There's your wage in a society should. The basic wage should enable you to own a small piece of property in a home, and you should be able to be relatively productive in your basic needs on that piece of property that you own. It was, that is distributism. We're not talking about distributing all the property.
Right.
We're talking about it being well distributed. It's a social ideal. Right now, our social ideal in the capitalist framework or the libertarian framework, is like deregulation or if we let capital, the capitalist idea is if we let capital do whatever it wants, it's going to consolidate where it needs to. Technology will then be created or technical schemes will be created that will serve the material needs of the most people. Right. Communism, if we associate and force through the violence of consolidated state power, we can force the right society through policy. And so those are the two ideas. Distributists are like, if you leave a guy alone on his farm, he gets together with his neighbors right in a local area.
Right.
They might make something really nice if you just leave him alone. Imagine that. And he's well formed in a type of moral framework that's going to tell him the truth, that he understands the truth. Sure. And so that's what distributism is, that the idea that it's not in different eras and different times, you will see different practical applications that you can create a policy schematic that reaches the distributist ideal, the social critique that distributism offers. Excuse me. But it's not like a packaged economic plan.
Right.
This is how you do it. It's just in our society right now, we could probably sit right here and your circumstances in North Idaho are going to be a little bit different from my circumstances in New York. I kind of am intimately aware of the unique conditions culturally, politically, and I could come up with probably some good ideas about how to create a better condition through policy or through the aggregation of bottom-up power to how to create that nicely distributed society. Right. That's what the distributist is trying to do. You have your answers for North Idaho. I have my answers for New York. But we have a coherent social ideal where a man, a family, owning a piece of property, being able to provide for their needs within a community is kind of the social ideal, the shire. That's kind of that's right. That's what we want, And so
it's so interesting too because it's like. We've become so polarized in this country. I don't think I've ever really said this on the show before, but it's certainly informed my politics for a long time. And it is back when JFK was president, right? You had the Democrat Party, you had the Republican Party. They disagreed on the policy. They disagreed on the roadmap, the route that they were going to take, but the destination was the same. Right, it was a good, just, generally, habitable society that's orderly and well maintained, and where everybody can kind of get along. The Democrats, they kind of wanted some social programs to help people along. The Republicans were like, I don't really know about that. And so there were disagreements on how to get there. But the destination was common among both political parties. Where we are today, the destinations are different, and the means to those destinations are totally different.
Totally.
And so, we're also kind of creeping up on this thing in this country. We played a clip on the show several months ago. It was from this Bitcoin podcast. And when you look at young kids these days, they can't own homes. Most have to work 2-3 jobs to get by. Almost everybody anymore has some sort of side hustle to make extra money because, between the government defrauding you of just wages through inflation and taxation, then you've got these greedy corporations that are, replacing Americans, H-1B visas and all of this type of stuff. It's just making it impossible. And it is driving people into the arms of socialism, communism. Right. We're just going to take your shit and kill you, what happened to the the CEO of the United Healthcare,
Right.
That's like where this is going.
Well,
and the libertarian, Republican, laissez-faire economic side is offering absolutely no solutions whatsoever to the consolidate. Like Blackstone owns like a majority of private homes in this country. It's crazy,
Right.
and nobody seems to be addressing that.
Well, this is where the distributist kind of a correct understanding of distributism actually becomes powerful in moments like this. It's why it was powerful in the 1930s before other third positions kind of took off. When you have a situation where the majority of people are dispossessed, when you have a situation where the dignity of their labor is violated, either by the wage they receive or the conditions, you have like vast amounts of people in poverty. These are tenuous moments of potential civil unrest or upheaval when their national identities aren't respected, when their communities are destroyed, and you have people have like nothing to lose, right? And so the demagoguery of communism or the demagoguery of like any type of like scheme that's going to be sold to them that this is if you trust in technology, you trust in this and you trust in that, instead of a politician or a demagogue trying to like convince them to buy into a scheme, if you were to ask that person to paint a day of the day in the life of if everything was actually okay, what would it look like? I'm going to guess that like 99% of people are going to describe some type of distributism. They're going to be like, I own my house. I work a job where my things are like satisfied. My basic needs are satisfied. I have like a community fabric where I, in good participation with my neighbors, we're like producing things together. There's high art. We have time for high art. We have a focus on our moral life and our spiritual formation. We have time for that. We are deeply rooted in our place. Maybe I have a little orchard, or maybe I'm doing sheep or something. Beauty is something that I focus on there. These are all things that you're not going to necessarily get from laissez-faire. You have the purely material focus of laissez-faire or the purely material focus of capitalism, right? You have to have a framework, an ontological framework that says the whole human person has a soul. It's compelled towards beauty, and the civic order and the economic order should respect that.
Yeah.
And so again, I just think that democracy does this terrible thing where it forces a majority, that it forces you into a political imagination where the only way to effectuate your agenda, not your agenda, what is it? The only way that I can implement my success, it's not my success, but implement the things that benefit me is if like my team wins. And so you lose, you get these short goalposts, these nearby goalposts of like my team wins, then I'm going to get the world that I want, or I'm going to get the partially. And no one is thinking about where they actually want to go. And so then they're just rooting for team this or team that, and they're being led around by their nose from like these very short goalposts in front of them, and no one's asking them like, where do you actually want to go? Because I think most people actually want to go to the small little house with a nice little garden and a nice wife and a civic order that supports the family and brings them into contact with their neighbors and like first primary things and nature and a spiritual life.
Yeah.
I actually think that's what most people want. And there's no coherent social philosophy or political movement out there that's saying that's what we're prioritizing.
Yeah.
That vision is what we're prioritizing.
Yeah.
That's what distributism is doing.
Interesting. That's not communism. That is definitely not communism.
No.
Funny.
They're going to take your kids away and put them in a state education, and the government's, the government becomes a type of like religious idol, and you're forced to worship the government. This is communism,
Yes.
And in laissez-faire, free market liberal, economics, all you have to do is let capital go wherever it wants, and magically it's going to appear where it, will satisfy materially the individuals, but that's not common good.
Right.
No, that's not.
I remembered my ADD moment from earlier. And this was something else that I discussed with Wayne Hoffman, who you don't know, but maybe the viewers, if you watch the show regularly, you'll see it. But it is these ideologies of both capitalism and communism reduce man, who has a soul, right? He was created by God, for God, who has a soul.
You don't even need to be Catholic to agree on this,
Right.
these points, right?
Right. And it reduces man to this unit of economic input and output, to GDP, basically.
Yes, green line go up.
No care whatsoever for their soul, for their quality of life. It's just, does number go up or does number go down?
Oh, well, there's a great, I don't know if you ever heard this one before. It was on the internet here and there, but this is a good one, to that green line go up psychosis kind of thing. If I take a mother and she leaves her family and hires a nanny, and she buys a bunch of formula for the kid, and she puts the kid in a school system, and she hires a housekeeper, and she hires another person to do her laundry with a service, and she goes out and works a wage job, green line just went up. There's 5 or 6 jobs created, right? She's making money out in the economy. Green line goes up, right? If that same mother just stays home and nurses the baby and keeps a little garden and puts dinner on the table, green line goes down, right? There's no job creation, no more economics, no growth, right? Which one's better for the baby?
Right. Obviously, it's obvious. It should be obvious.
So
which one's better?
Why are we not just saying the truth? If you talk to the early distributists or the early Catholic land movement from yesteryear, and you ask them what their ideology was, what are you? What's your moniker? Yeah. They wouldn't call themselves distributists right off the bat. Right. They would call themselves realists.
Yeah,
we're just being real.
Yeah.
What kind of world do you want to live in? Are you making steps towards it, or is some politician pulling you around by the nose?
Yeah.
Making everyone else your enemy.
This actually reminds me. So, like, when my wife and I, one of the reasons why we moved up here as well was not just because we have, my wife and I had deep roots in this community. My wife has lived up here for decades. But we were, we had just gotten married. We were pregnant. COVID happened. Yep. They made it so that they wanted to do all of my wife's visits with the doctor via telehealth. It's like, she's pregnant with her first child, and you're not going to put your hands on there.
Right.
You're not going to give her an ultrasound. No, that's too dangerous. Right. We have COVID. We got to wear a mask, so we were just like, this is not going to happen. And North Idaho is one of the few places in the country where we didn't lose our minds. Places stayed open. I mean, even though the governor technically did shut the state down and enact martial law, Governor Brad Little, that is, vote for Mark Fitzpatrick on, was it March 19th? Vote for Mark Fitzpatrick. Anyway, so there were still clinics open up here where we could go. There was midwives that we've had all of our births with midwives. And as a part of this, there was childbirth classes that we actually went to, which I thought was kind of weird at first. Now that I've had 3 kids, I get it. I'm like, actually, that was really good. But in the class, one of the teachers or whatever that came in was a lactation consultant, and I'm gonna get to my point. Relax, everybody in the chat, relax. But so this lactation consultant comes in, and she is this very obvious liberal with tattoos all over her arms, and she starts giving this talk about how corporations cannot make money off of breast milk.
Right.
And I wish I remembered it word for word, because it was probably one of the most radicalizing things I'd ever heard. Right. Teaching about how do you know that breast milk will actually cure rashes?
Right.
It'll the when the kid gets sick, if the mother has antibodies, the breast milk will actually contain the antibodies from the mother and transmit them to the kids. So the kids don't get sick. Yep. But you can't make money on it. You can't put women in a factory floor hooked up to machines pumping out breast milk. That's not how this works.
Right.
And so because corporations can't make money off of it, they've engaged in advertising campaigns demonizing public breastfeeding, for example, is one thing. And so they have, ad campaigns for different kinds of formula and stuff like that. And it's I'm sitting there and I'm just I did not realize I was coming to a childbirth class to get economically radicalized, but that's what happened. And there's so much truth to it.
Yes.
And
my question for that perspective, though, where is the aggregated or associated political outlet, whether it's, like I said, we elect our politicians to affect the top-down power or bottom-up power? where are the places where people from that perspective of that, like, green line go up is insane, and your leftist communist thing is insane, right?
Yeah.
Where are the realists?
Yeah. There's got to be a third way.
A restoration of realism is what we need.
Yeah. There's also, speaking of realism, there's been a lot of, I guess, geopolitical or foreign policy realism. This has become a new school. I don't know if you've seen John Mearsheimer and some of the Jeffrey Sachs. Granted he's kind of a globalist or whatever, but this concept of realism, like hey, we've got to actually engage in good faith negotiations with other countries, and this is about to be deeply affecting, I think, people all over this country. We haven't yet really, in my opinion, felt the brunt of this war that we're in. We're in this war with Iran now. Obviously we've all seen gas prices go up from this, but people are kind of unaware that more than just oil goes through the Strait of Hormuz, which is currently closed. Of course, based on what happened last week, it could reopen and then close like 8 hours later again. Like the whole thing is just an absolute mess. But I really am convinced. And I've got the same vibes that I had for COVID, actually. For those of us that were on the dissident right, we kind of saw these videos of people like dropping dead on subways in China. We were all like, stop, close the borders, lock everything down. Yep. And then 3 or 4 months too late, they decide, okay, now we're going to lock everyone down. And it's like, well, this is actually going to do nothing at this point. But where I'm going with this is, I think that when
it was okay to march for George Floyd, but it wasn't okay to go, to shop for groceries.
Yes.
We saw. Then we started to wake up.
If you go to mass, you might catch COVID, but if you go to riot, you're fine.
You're fine. You're totally good.
Totally get it. But I think that we may be, and I could be wrong. I try not to make too many predictions on this show, but I think that we could be seeing disruptions to global supply chains coming.
The land movement is motivating because that good world that we want glorifies our Lord. When we take good care of the earth and when we take good care of one another in solidarity with one another, that love for one another and that love for the created world glorifies our Lord. So the land movement is always motivating from that place of fidelity, love for God. That's the essential motivation. But it's very interesting that love for God and my deep contact with the soil and growing all my own food for my family because I'm doing it out of love rather than fear also satisfies a whole bunch of other needs, right? And I can look at something from that once I'm integrated deeply with the created world and things make sense again. I'm not being pulled around my nose by politics. I don't have my face in my phone all the time. I got to feed the sheep. I got to take care of the apples. The world is in front of me and real. When that happens again, my dependency on all these global supply chains and corporate plans for food domination and everything else, my dependency on all that stuff kind of goes away. Yeah. Or at least it's lessened, There's a path towards localism, autarky for a nation. These are just common sense policy things, making sure that your area right around you has access to clean water through a variety of hand pumpable wells. Most people live on an electric pump. If the water goes out, if power goes out, then where's the water coming from? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so. But we could easily produce thousands of of hand pumps for people. And hand pumping, so this is the interesting thing, hand pumping your water is going to bring you into a deeper association, maybe even a bit of sacrificial participation with the created world. That's going to heighten your spiritual experience. It's going to heighten your understanding of where things come from and your connectedness to things. And through that, you can find an actualization of love for God, again, love for neighbor. The world becomes richer when we become closer to it. A good story I always tell is my wife and I, we got a cook stove that is wood fired. And until then, I was splitting wood and just kind of stacking it, And then we got this cook stove that was wood fired. And sometimes you want to cook an egg in the morning, you need to get fire going really, really fast because it's got to be really, really hot to cook. You can't just click on the stove. And then I was like, oh, these different woods burn at different temperatures, right? And then so I start splitting the wood and stacking the different woods because ash burns a lot hotter than pine, And so if I need little thin pieces of ash to get a fire going, to cook an egg really fast or boil my coffee really fast. And then all of a sudden, this whole order of my wood pile emerges, where it was all just like one bland thing because I participated deeply and deeper with the created world. An order emerged that was obscured from me prior to that deep participation. And I'm saying all this because sometimes we talk about like supply chains and all these things. If we truly love and integrate ourselves with our immediate responsibilities as men with dominion over the created world in our immediate places, our households and the land that we own, and we do that with a love for the Creator who placed us in that position, we actually prepare ourselves for things like supply chain disruptions or
it just doesn't affect you anymore. It's like
you separate yourself from usury, or you separate you're so it's very, very interesting to me that instead of motivating from fear of collapse of these various things, that by motivating from love and a desire to deeply connect, we can alleviate some of the material, uncertainties that exist.
Yeah, and this has been something, since moving to Idaho, at least I've seen kind of change in my life or whatever, is like, we don't get our meat from Walmart anymore.
Right.
When I lived in Indiana or Chicago, you're like, yeah, absolutely. Like, where else are you going to go? That's all you got. But, up here, like, it is nice. Like, we get our cow from a lady who raises cows.
Great.
We have a bunch of chickens. I don't know if you could see.
Oh, yeah,
the chickens are like right at the door. Granted, that means I need to fix their fence. But we go outside, get eggs. You don't have to go to the store to get them, and there's a kind of like level of you can. Not that it's good to be politically tuned out, especially I think in times of turmoil like we're living through now. I think it's good to be aware of your surroundings and aware of what's going on. But you can kind of tune out, and it's like, it just doesn't. You're not like up at night worried about this like global stuff that's outside of your control. You
tend the garden that
you know that you've got a garden. You know you've got some chickens. Like somebody up the road is growing pigs and cows, and
right.
I think that's really cool. Now, I guess to get back to the land movement a little bit.
Yeah, went on.
It's okay. But are there dues? Does it cost money to join?
Nope.
No money.
Nope.
What are you like? You like being poor or something?
I'm Catholic.
And I guess, do you have an estimate of how many active members? How many? I mean, we put this map up earlier.
There's about 75, 80 chapters that are active right now. Different ones at different levels of activity.
Yeah.
But there's a oriented leader at every one of those little points you see on the map, and so. So you can reach out to us if you scroll down a little bit more, not on the map, but on the entire page. You'll find that connection form.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, you can connect with us right there. Pick where you are. You're going to get the land movement. I've knocked liberal economics quite a bit. Contemporary ideas about social order and this egalitarian, making every decision needs to be consensus and the rest of it. The land movement doesn't believe in that. We really believe in hierarchy. And so we set up a leader in a locality who can walk a group of people through the rubrics of the land movement and begin to associate them so they can have a restoration of the real and a deeply integrated life between the land, people, or community, and God.
Nice.
And so we're facilitating that one expressions of you're on the events page now. These are expressions of one step at a time. What does it look like? Well, it's springtime. Everyone's doing gardening. Look at seed starting, gardening. So all the chapters are doing, but you learn how to do bees, Rogation Day procession. That's a good one.
Ooh, pig harvest.
Pig harvest. Yep. So the events give you in your locality, give you the opportunity to connect with other local Catholics or people interested in the homesteading stuff who are morally formed. Unfortunately, you go into some of these homesteading, outside of the Catholic land movement, you'll enter some of these homesteading things, and people will be absolutely deranged, off the rails, no order in the household, pagan craziness, kookiness, and the Catholic land movement is bringing together not just people who are interested in homesteading, but people who also are mature and developed enough to understand that Western society rests on Catholicism. There's a moral order to the universe. That moral order is held by the church.
Yeah.
There's God. You get well-ordered families when you associate through Catholicism.
Yeah.
So
no, I totally agree. The quality of people, and especially the people that watch this podcast,
there you go.
Absolutely fantastic. Now, the other thing I wanted to point out, just for the naysayers that are out there, Dave Riley, the extremist, he's talking about the Catholic land movement. Well, the Catholic land movement actually is not extremist at all. It's actually not only very common sense, but also you guys have recently received a blessing from the new Holy Father.
Yeah.
It looks like on your website. I think you've been given approbation by your local bishop there in New York.
Yep.
So,
I think there's about eight different bishops who have given us
that's
things.
awesome.
And so it's interesting to as we talk a little bit more, and I come to understand a bit more probably your perspective of your audience and stuff. There's so many people out there that are hyper focused on a political binary, or hyper focused on the doom and gloom of their phone trailing for them. And I guess an opportunity for me to be here is to reach out to those people in your audience and say, hey, there is who may be. I'm not saying all your audience like that, but maybe there's people stuck there.
Sure.
And so that maybe you might be interested in a single step where you come into contact with the real, with your neighbors,
yeah.
and where you can actually go to a place and you can trust that there's a moral formation that speaks to justice, that speaks to the goodness of people, that there's families present, that it's good.
Yeah.
And you can come into encounter that. You can go to a land movement event and you can say, hey, I want to learn about, I want to sit through a class on bees, and then I want to witness the rosary being prayed, or I want to sit at a bonfire with a bunch of people. That's accessible to you. Go to our chapter map. Go find somebody. Like you said, is there money? No. There's no dues. If you like what we do, send me money. Send me so much money. But
and if you like what they do, you can also please make sure you can follow them. They're on X at Catholic Land. There's also, and we didn't get into this, but you've got a parent company, Verax Patria, which is
they're our partner. As things develop in a locality. Sometimes our chapters reach a stage of development and association that they want to take on a bigger project. They want to take on a vocational training farm, or they want to take on, cutting up a piece of land so a couple people could share it, or they want to create a novel access to land, maybe through somebody, an old farmer who's part of the chapter, who's okay, I want to give my land to these two kids, Mm-hmm. Verax Patria helps kind of navigate the legal, financial, all of that on the back end of a chapter that's well developed with association. But it's like a partner's kind of sister brother organization to Catholic Land Movement. Catholic Land Movement is really back to our whole conversation on distributism. It is a practical social action front of the distributist principles. We're going to get people associated together on private property. It's productive use. A good association with one another, a moral fabric of the church. That's what we're doing.
That's awesome. And I was going to say, you also have a big conference coming up.
This is the big one. If I were to encourage anybody, if they listen to this podcast and they go on our website and they look around and they're like, oh wow, I want to actually see what this guy's talking about. The best one to go to is the national conference in Indiana. It's usually 500-600 people show up.
Wow.
It's 3 days long. We camp. There's bonfires. There's meals provided throughout. There's saturated in daily office, mass, prayers. And then there's workshops on the principles that are motivating the whole thing. And then there's workshops on how to butcher a pig, how to keep bees, how to do raise garden beds, how to keep cows, how to graze cows. So you get to leave with a whole lot of practical skills that you maybe get exposure to for the first time. You leave with a deeper understanding of the Catholic social doctrine. You have the spiritual life for 3 days. You butcher a pig with a bunch of guys, right? And you guys, like, you butcher a pig and you spend a couple hours doing that, and then you go to a field and pray Vespers in Latin for the first time ever, and it's like, you're like, wait, why don't we live like this all the time? And you're like, yeah, we couldn't we? You can. It's waiting for us in the soil. God's always left it there waiting for us, and the Catholic Land Movement is bringing people together to try and find it.
That is so awesome. That is so awesome. Well, thank you so much for picking up the patrimony of the Catholic Land Movement, which you did not found, but resurrecting this old social movement. I think that the time is right. There's so many people that are looking for something deeper out of life, something deeper out of society, and again, just like this concept of rebuilding the social fabric that has been so deeply wounded and disrupted over the past, 70, 100 years. So thank you so much for joining us today.
God bless you, Dave. Good talking to you.
Cheers. Testing. There we go. I think we've got audio now. Well, thank you again. Sorry about that. I don't know what was going on. Our live chats disappeared. This is a disaster. Sorry about that. I was trying to say that this was one of the best conversations that I've had in a while, and thank you again to Michael Thomas for joining us. It was really great to speak with somebody that was just so like-minded and that has real solutions to the very real problems that we face in society today. Thank you for coming on the show and for doing what he did. It's very exciting. They wound up having their kickoff event for the Catholic Land Movement, and I think they had over 150 people there. It was the largest inaugural meeting of a chapter of the Catholic Land Movement in the United States of America. So definitely something to keep an eye on. And if you're interested in this, if you like that conversation, and if you want to get a little bit deeper into it, you should join. There should be a link in the show description below. I think it's catholiclandmovement.info. Let's just check. Have we fixed the audio? Make sure, so check in the show notes below. There are links to the Catholic Land Movement. Again, it doesn't cost anything to join or to become a member. Actually, while we're figuring out this audio thing, I've got a little video that was produced by the Catholic Land Movement that you can take a look at. So let's check this out, and then we'll make sure that audio is all good to go, and we'll take it from there. So 1 second.
Once, life was simpler. We woke with the sun, worked with our hands, and gathered with loved ones under one roof. Faith was our anchor. The land was our home. Families thrived connected to each other, to the earth, God's creation, and to God. But everything has changed. Today, we're swept up in a world of noise, fast technology, global markets, endless distractions, big systems, governments, and corporations control so much. They've turned families into consumers, homes into markets, relationships into commodities. We've lost touch with the land, with each other, with what matters most. The Catholic Church saw this coming. For almost 2 centuries, the social teachings of the Church have warned us. These systems undermine small proprietorship, and by doing so, they crush workers, fracture families, and erode communities. The Church and her leading spokesmen, both clerical and lay, have, however, consistently and unapologetically taught that the economy should serve people, not rule them. The family is the heart of society. Property, landed property especially, enables our work, our land, and our lives to lead us to God. This is why the Catholic land movement, a consistent witness against industrial and technological tyranny for well over a century, lives again today. Families, priests, young dreamers, and farmers are choosing a different path. They're returning to the land, growing food, learning trades, building communities rooted in faith. This isn't about running away, it's about coming home. They're rediscovering subsidiarity, letting families, parishes, and towns take charge of their own lives. They're homesteading, raising crops, crafting goods, reclaiming the dignity of work. They're making the family the heart of the economy again, living a vision of beauty, purpose, and community. And they are establishing living examples of those small units of productive property ownership that were, for the greater part of human history, and will be again, the foundation of both national and local economies. This movement is growing. From small farms to local businesses, from homesteads to parish gardens, these are the seeds of a new Catholic culture. When people see families living this way, rooted in faith, alive with purpose, something stirs. Joy spreads. Hope catches fire. Others can't help but want to join. We're building the future, families strong in faith, communities vibrant with life, a world where work and worship intertwine. The Catholic land movement is proof that life doesn't need to be complicated to be meaningful. The land calls us back. Faith binds us together. Good order is restored when families are again deeply rooted in their homes, on their homesteads, and in communities that serve and bind those homesteads together. Our world is not the same, but some things never change. The truth of Jesus Christ, the strength of family, the power of community, the centrality of property. We're fighting for these things, for our children, for our faith, for our future. Build the life you were made for. Join us. Imagine what we can grow together.
There you go. So now we've got audio. I think it's all worked out. But bravo to those guys. They're really doing something special. And you know, like we were talking about in the interview. I mean, they've got like dozens of chapters all over the country. So wherever you are, wherever you're watching this from, there's going to be a group of people near you that you can connect with, and you know, learn some. Even if you're not Catholic, you know, you can still learn some skills. Learn how to butcher a chicken, butcher a pig, raise a barn. It's super important. We've got a lot of other stuff that I want to talk about with you as well. I took Monday off. I wasn't really feeling it. I wasn't feeling the vibes. I was tired. My parents are in town. You know, hello. Thank you, by the way, for letting me use your apartment for a minute while we do this live stream. So there's a lot that's been going on that we'll get into, specifically the upcoming election. There's a little voter guide that I want to go over with you, but early voting here in Idaho has started. So if you live here in Idaho, you can head out to the polls and vote for non-bad people. You can vote for good people in the election, actually, and it's very important that you do. But first, before we get into that, I do need to give some shout outs to our sponsors, one of them being Atlas Bullion. At atlasbullion.com/backlash, if you, like me, are concerned about what is going on with our economy, if you're concerned about inflation and hyperinflation, money printing, and the war and what it's going to be costing us, then it makes sense to start stacking precious metals the easy way at atlasbullion.com/backlash. You can take the stress out of buying metals with their flexible precious metals subscriptions. You can choose a plan that fits your goals, and Atlas Bullion will handle the rest, delivering high-quality gold and silver directly to your door. It's the easiest way to stack metals consistently and build wealth for your future. They have 3 unique subscription options to empower you and to stack your way. They have a diverse subscription, which is gold and silver. They have a silver subscription, which is just silver, and they've got a gold subscription that's just gold. So whatever you're looking at, whether you're thinking about parking several $1,000s or just a couple $100s, Atlas Bullion has got a way for you to fight the Fed, to fight inflation, and to take back your wealth sovereignty, if you will. You know, I mean, I don't know if you've ever tried to go to the bank and wire money to somebody, but if you show up too late after 3 p.m., oh, they sent out the wires already. Sorry, you're gonna have to wait till Monday. And it's like, well, is that even really my money? And the answer is no, it's not. And speaking of, this is totally not a paid-for commercial, but I'm gonna plug these guys anyway. They're over on X at Acme Acres, and again, sorry to be all uppity about the local stuff. I know that some of you have an issue with how local I focus, but Acme Acres at Idaho Beef. They're located here in North Idaho. You can follow them on X, and this is like one of those things that like the Catholic Land Movement is attempting to promote, growing your own food, raising your own meat. And so these guys over at Acme Acres are extremely special because not only do they, grow this stuff locally, it's all no hormones, there's no antibiotics, but they also accept gold and silver and Bitcoin. So they keep the wealth here in the community. You can spend real money and get real food, not this fake GMO goy slop that they have over at Walmart. So here was a tweet that I saw a couple of days ago from Acme Acres saying, attention, do you know that people want real food at better prices? Hello. Acme Acres is looking for community coordinators to organize a beef share group at your church, gym, HOA, or sports club. And you can even earn a commission on every full beef sale that you help close. So check these guys out. If you live here in North Idaho or even Spokane, you'd be able to work with these guys. It's acmeacres.us is their website. So anyway, they didn't pay me to say that. I just like what they're doing, and they're very good people. They're Christian. They're into sound money, and I think that's important to promote. Before we get into talking about the election, I also want to tell you a little bit about our friends at ODGG Supply. They are the Pacific Northwest's premier outfitters. They've got all kinds of military surplus equipment. They've got MREs. They've got canteens. They've got sleeping bags. They've got all kinds of clothes, and they're running a huge sale right now. Like almost everything that they have is on sale right now. And I believe you can actually stack. You can stack the discount. If you use promo code Backlash14, you'll get 14% off your order. And I do believe that that will apply even to items that are on sale. I guess I could be wrong. We did have an issue, by the way, with ODGG Supply in that it turned out they had their night vision. So if you used promo code Backlash14, you would have gotten 14% off a brand new set of night vision, which would have wound up costing ODGG Supply a bunch of money. Thank God I caught it. And but you never know, okay? I'm just saying, visit their website, odggsupply.com. Use promo code Backlash14. God knows what you'll be able to get on sale. And their stuff is just really, really primo. I got a chance to visit their little operation out in Seattle, Washington, and a bunch of great guys, a great local business. And they help connect with their local community. They do volunteer work and disaster relief as well. So yeah, please visit ODGG Supply. They've got rucksacks, they've got waterproof jackets, they've got blankies in case you're going blankie mode, and they also have tactical stuff, night vision and thermals, which I've been deep diving on, by the way. Hopefully I'll be able to save up enough money to actually buy a pair and maybe make some content about this stuff, because it's absolutely fascinating, this new world that we're in, especially with Ukraine. There's been a lot of videos coming out of people in Ukraine operating with night vision and thermals, and I think it's interesting and worth talking about. But anyway, visit odggsupply.com. What else? We did have a super chat, by the way, from a good friend of the show, the Idaho Prepper, sent $10 with a yippee emoji. Thank you so much, man. I do appreciate it. We're going to have to do a crossover stream sometime. We're going to have to bring you on the channel. He's got a great show over on YouTube at Idaho Prepper. So please follow him, watch his content. He makes a lot of really great stuff, and he gets a lot more views than me. So God bless him, and thank you for the big super chat. I do appreciate it, man. We'll have to grab a coffee sometime. And, that kind of brings us to this election stuff. And while I'm shilling other people's podcasts, which I'm not getting paid to do, and it doesn't exactly help me out, there is a new podcast out on a webpage called the North Idaho Experience, okay? This is a group of, I guess they're realtors. They sell real estate here in North Idaho, and so they make content as a part of their purchase funnel. But they did a recent interview with the local GOP leader, Brent Regan. So that is going to hopefully shed some light on some of the local battles that we've been having between the rhinos and the true conservative, the America First people and the Israel First people, because it's very confusing. And there's a big fight right now. And like I said, early voting just began on Monday. So please make sure you do your civic duty. It's not going to change the world overnight. We're not going to get perfect leaders like that. But we can certainly have leaders that suck less, that's for sure. And so there is some literature that's going around this. For example, this is the local GOP voter guide. If you live in North Idaho, hopefully you got one of these in the mail. But they also have their list. Let's see if you can see this. This is the list of all of their endorsed candidates for local office. I recommend that you vote for these people, all but two. All but two. I'm going to be honest with you. There's two of these people that I would not vote for, even if I had like cancer and they had the cure. One of them being obviously Idaho Senator Jim Risch. Jim Risch sucks. He is the chairperson for the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. He's the one that's been funding all of these foreign wars, funding conflict in Somalia, in the Middle East, in Ukraine. How about now? Are we back, chat? There we go. You can't just have like a normal live stream. It's got to be all crazy. Where was I? I was talking about Jim Risch. Jim Risch sucks. Don't vote for Jim Risch. I know the local Republicans endorsed Jim Risch, but we can do better. And that person is obviously Denny LeVay. Denny LeVay joined us on this podcast a little while ago. Let me pull up his X account. Denny is doing very good. He's been going around making the rounds on the podcasts. I've been seeing some viral posts coming from him as well, like this guy. In the Senate, I will introduce legislation to increase the penalties on people hiring illegal aliens. If you financially aid criminal illegals, you will face the full force of the law. Wow, gee, doesn't that sound like a novel idea? So, I know that the local GOP has endorsed Jim Risch, but like I said, I can't do it. I can't vote for a pro-war candidate. So I would not vote for Jim Risch. And then if you happen to live in Legislative District 4, Ben Taves. Don't vote for Ben Taves. He's a big-time Zionist. And he's going to be very problematic here in Idaho. He's going to be backing all of the wrong legislation for the wrong reasons, so don't vote for him. But if you do live here in Kootenai County or in North Idaho, make sure you get a copy of this conservative voter guide, or at least the sample ballot, because why not? And while we're at it, there's a big fight for the Central Committee. Oh, sorry, this was one of the other things I wanted to talk about, because I'm not the only one, I'm not the only influencer in North Idaho that's putting out these recommended voting lists. There is the Zionist list, if you are interested. This comes to us from our friends at Candlelight through the Kootenai County Spectator, Erin Bernard. And she is not voting for anybody. She's not voting for governor. She's not voting for lieutenant governor, controller, secretary of state, state treasurer, attorney general, even Raul Labrador. Hello, you're not voting for Raul? No, she's not. She's only voting for Josh Roy, big-time Zionist, by the way. Got into an argument with his daughter, I guess, at a local gun show. He is worse than Jim Risch, by the way. And this is the group. They're trying to take over the local Central Committee. I don't know if you've been hearing about this. I've been talking about it on a couple of the podcasts, but there is a big battle for these central committees. I talked about it a long time ago, how the local central committees are made up of these precinct committeeman candidates. In Kootenai County, we have 73 of these people, 73 precincts. And there is a group of radical, crazy Zionists that are attempting to take over the GOP in conjunction with these SPLC-backed FBI agent daughter types, right? And what do they want to do? They want to abolish their rating and vetting system. They don't want the GOP to endorse candidates in the primaries. They want the voter to be confused, and they want to use the power of the Republican Party to push for the big corporate candidates, for the candidates that have the corporate backing. They want to regain control, because up here in Idaho, about 6 years ago, because of COVID, there was a big flip, and real grassroots conservatives took over the Idaho GOP, and they've been doing a hell of a job with it. But the big corporations, the donors, the special interests, the agricultural lobby, the people that want more immigration, they are lashing out and accusing everybody of being a Nazi. They're accusing everybody of being a white supremacist. And only if you go and bow down at the altar of Israel, only if you promise to give Israel all the aid that they want, then you can get a pass and you can be a part of their little club. So anyway, there is some interesting resources that you can get on the internet. There are lists. You can go to, there's a website called KootenaiFreedomCaucus.org, and they've got a list of all of the good PC candidates that are running. These are the people that were, they got their start during the Tea Party movement. They got their start protesting against COVID. And so these are the candidates that I will be voting for. I hope if you live up here that you vote for them too, because otherwise we're going to get a GOP that is full of fake Republicans, or Democrat Republicans, liberal Republicans, Zionist Republicans, Republicans that, shout out of order at a meeting and start screaming F you, like what happened last night. There was a big GOP meeting in Kootenai County last night, and it was crazy, man. It was absolutely wild. I was there. I took my dad to it. It was his first time going to one of these Republican Party meetings, and the people were freaking out, just screaming. This one woman, Nina Beasley, by the way, who I fully endorse, Nina Beasley for precinct committee woman. She started screaming the F word at the meeting last night. Nina and I have a long history working together to prevent the adoption of a part of the party platform that would make it so that you have to approve of Israel and everything that they're doing in order to be considered a good Republican, right? They wanted to insert that into the Idaho GOP party platform, and it was me and Nina Beasley that stood up the fight against that and stopped it. So please make sure that you vote for Nina Beasley. She is very aware of the Bolshevik Revolution and who exactly was behind that. The murder of 80 million Christians in Russia and Eastern Europe at the hands of Jewish Bolsheviks. She knows all about it, and she's on board. So make sure that you vote for Nina Beasley. I forget which precinct she's in. I'm sure it's out there, but anyway. What else? So there's that. Also, I wanted to remind you all to vote for Mark Fitzpatrick. Mark Fitzpatrick is running for governor, and Brad Little, remember, he's the one that locked down the state, mask mandates. He enacted martial law. He restricted people's freedom of speech. He was arresting mothers at playgrounds down in southern Idaho. And he's still governor for some reason. The people of Idaho just keep re-electing the same shit over and over again. And this year we do have a choice. We have a good alternative. We had a good alternative last time. It was Ammon Bundy. But, he got 17.8% of the vote, which was, I think, not bad for an independent candidate. But anyway, Mark Fitzpatrick is running for governor of Idaho. He's been endorsed by Ammon Bundy, Richard Mack, Ian Carroll, Doug Trouble, Denny LaVey, a bunch of different people. He's also been endorsed by several Republican Central Committees throughout the state: Kootenai, Canyon, Shoshone, Adams, Elmore, Nez Perce, Boise, and Clearwater County. He is the clear freedom candidate here in the state of Idaho, so please, if you live here, vote for Mark Fitzpatrick. And what else? So I think that kind of covers it for the local politics stuff for now. We'll do more on this as we get closer to the election. We're also going to be keeping a close watch on Ohio. Casey Putsch is running for governor in Ohio. Obviously, he came on this program a couple of weeks ago and had a great interview with him. And so we're wishing him all of the best. I believe early voting in Ohio has already started, so you can definitely go vote for him. And also James Fishback. James Fishback was on this program a couple of months ago, I guess at this point. And man, he's been kicking ass in Florida, really. The rallies that he's been holding, just mobbed by young people that love him and love the message. And the message is America first. The message is that we're done being led around by the nose for special interests, foreign lobbies, to benefit the state of Israel over the state of America. I think that the young people in this country are tired of it. We've gone over the polling on this show so many times, but hey, some people like to ignore reality, and they live in la la land. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do when that happens? Anyway, got to give another shout out to some of our sponsors that make this show possible. Idaho Tallow Company at idahotallow.com. They make soap and skincare products without endocrine disruptors, no harsh chemicals, grass-fed tallow. It's simple, it's effective, it smells wonderful, it makes you feel good, it gives your skin the nutrients that it needs, the minerals that we need. It's not like this junk that you get from Walmart that's made out of petroleum byproducts. So go to idahotallow.com, and all orders over $100 are shipped for free. They are also, I believe, ramping up production on their sun balm, I think they're calling it. Where is it? Do they have it up here? Somewhere. But they've got a sunscreen. It's a sun balm. There it is. It's on sale, actually. Look at that. That's a pretty good deal. Sandalwood Vanilla Sun Balm. So if you're a white person and you go out in the summer sun and you burn to a crisp, you should think about trying some of this, because if you haven't noticed, all of the stuff that they sell us in these big box stores is like poison, especially the sunscreen. The sunscreen is really bad. You should not be putting it on yourself or your children. You should be looking for alternatives to sunscreen, and the North Idaho Tallow Sun Balm is a great way to do that. And, you can visit their website at idahotallow.com. And like I said, orders over $100 ship for free, and it helps sustain this show. You can also pay with Bitcoin. There's another one of these North Idaho Bitcoin companies. And we'll also give a big shout out to our friends at Above Time Coffee Roasters. They make small batch, premium, hand-roasted coffee. It's delicious. It tastes great. It's fair trade. It's non-kosher. I really cannot give a bigger endorsement. Their coffee is just absolutely delicious. You don't need cream and sugar. You can drink it black, and it won't actually put hair on your chest. It's very delightful. It's nice. It's got a sweet taste to it, especially the lighter roasts. So please check them out. I've been drinking the Nordic Blonde, and there was a medium roast that I've been drinking. I can't remember which one it is. Probably the Guatemalan single origin one. It's just delicious. Visit AboveTimeCoffee.com and use promo code Backlash10. You'll get 10% off your order at AboveTimeCoffee.com. So thank you again to them for sponsoring this show, as well as our good friends at Antelope Hill Publishing. They're fighting, oopsie daisy, they're fighting to keep history alive amidst a regime of anti-white censorship. They've got books out the wazoo. They've got, of course, Kevin MacDonald's Culture of Critique. They've got Ricardo Duchesne's books, Josh Neal's books. I don't have the script on me because I don't have any external monitors. I can't read it at the same time as I'm looking at the website, but look at these books. They're wonderful. They're fantastic. They get into history, and it's a history that has been kept from us. You know, in public school, in high school, they don't teach you what was really going on in the world. They teach you what they want you to believe for their own political ends, because these schools were designed to indoctrinate and turn you into a slave. And I'm not into that. So visit Antelope Hill Publishing. You can get some real history. They've got a bunch of books, by the way, on the Spanish Civil War, which are absolutely fascinating, like this one, Spain 1923 to 1948, Civil War and World War. They've also got a new book that's coming out. We're trying to get an interview set up about Germany in Stalin's crosshairs. This is the Red Army's entry into the Second World War and the Wehrmacht's actions in 1941. Should be an interesting book, and hopefully if we can get the author here on the show, we will do a big show about that. It should be good. Also, a new offering from our friends at Antelope Hill, Peasantry as the Lifeblood of the Nordic Race by Richard W. Darey. Or Dare. I don't know how to say your last name, but anyway, very interesting book, as are all of the books at Antelope Hill Publishing. You can use promo code Backlash10. You'll get 10% off your order. It helps a small family-owned business. It helps support this show. And they do track sales, by the way. So please, if you've been thinking about buying a book from Antelope Hill, visit their website and use promo code Backlash10. It does help out so much. And so with that, okay, we did ODGG, Above Time, Antelope, Idaho Tallow, Atlas Bullion. We did all of it. We've also got some other people that we work with as well. I'll give a big shout out to today. And you can, by the way, find all of our affiliates at thebacklash.net/affiliates. All of the links are there. One of them is One Acre Farms. They make real food, beef snacks, small, local, family-owned farm in Iowa, I believe. And they make some beef snacks. My kids love these. I love them, actually. Got lots of protein, and they're tasty. And if you use the link in the description below, you can get a small discount on your order, as well as with our friends over at coldcard.com. That's CoinKite. We've got a link to their website in the show notes below. If you're a Bitcoiner, you can stack your sats in a very secure way using the Cold Card Q. So anyway, visit, like I said, all of our affiliates on our website, thebacklash.net/affiliates. Let me go check the live chat real quick. Where are we? Here we are. Yes, Justin Stam checked in, says I'll be in and out. Yeah, Justin, by the way, from the Why We Fight podcast, he's got his show coming up tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific, I believe, and I think I'm going to be joining him on his show this Friday, actually. So make sure that you're following the Why We Fight podcast with Justin Stam. He's at Justin Stam on X. And of course, we did that show with him a couple weeks ago, The 4 Laws of Mafia Power. It was very good. And yeah, thanks for chatting, Willie. I see you in the chat. Ked Tazinski, Justin Stam, a lot of cool people. Based Philosophy Mom, what's going on? Hope you all are having a wonderful Wednesday. It feels like Friday to me for some reason. I don't know why, but it just does. It feels like the end of the week, but it's not over yet. We're not done. We got to push through. And so with that, we've got a bunch of other stuff coming up. I think we're going to have Arthur Bloom, a journalist from Washington, D.C., who's going to be joining us. He was recently involved in a court case, and I think it had to do with Israeli spying. I don't know. We'll find out more about that, but he's been around the scene for a long time. And we've got, like I said, some interviews coming up with some of the Antelope Hill guys. And then, of course, we'll be doing some updates on where we are with the war. I think we're almost 60 days into the war in Iran. And the Strait of Hormuz is still closed. Australia is about to run out of gas. And farmers are having a really difficult time sourcing all of the fertilizer that they need. So we're going to do an episode, an update on the war in Iran, make sure that you've got everything that you need to know about that. But, I felt like this has been a better tact, doing more interviews and getting into some different topics instead of just being doom and gloom every week. Oh, this is the end of the world, the collapse of the economy, 2 weeks and the banks will fail. Like, come on, this has not happened. So, we're going to have to find a way to move forward. This is one of those things. I was talking with somebody over the weekend. There's a lot of people out there that think that there's going to be some sort of like imminent collapse and that everything is just going to fall apart all at once within like the next 2 weeks. And like, wouldn't that be convenient? Wouldn't that like wake Americans up if they were like overnight unable to like feed their families and they realized, oh, hey, maybe it was this war that we got involved in with Iran. That would be good for people like us that see the world the way that we do. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think the worst possible case scenario is that we just have this slow grind, this slow descent into poverty as a nation. And frankly, I think that is more likely. Something very slow that lulls people to sleep. People will continue showing up to work on Mondays. The world will continue to turn and nothing will have really changed except that everything will wind up costing more and people will be more degenerate. I'm afraid that's the way that we're going. I feel like if we had some sort of a collapsitarian, whatever thing, that would actually be helpful. But that's not the direction that we're going. So you got to be prepared. That's why you've got to build for the future. That's why you got to be stacking gold and silver. You got to be building your network. You've got to be rebuilding social fabric, getting your friends together, getting people on the same page. I'm not saying you have to go out and red pill Uncle Jeb or anything like that, but find your tribe, find your people, find your parish. I think that you will do well there. And, one of the ways to do that is the Catholic land movement. Hate to keep harping on this, but please check the description in the show notes below. There's a link to the Catholic land movement. It's catholicland.info, I believe, let me just make sure that I'm giving the right link. It is catholiclandmovement.info. I'll actually put this in the chat for you right now. So if anybody watched the interview that we did a little earlier and are interested in getting more involved, you can do that at catholiclandmovement.info. They've got chapters all over the country. And, this gets into, something that I tweeted about last night. I'll read it out to you guys if you want. I'm just assuming that you want me to. A little bit of an effort post. I don't usually do this on X, but I said I want to put something out there for the Catholic trad crowd. The Society of St. Pius X is a priestly society. The Fraternity of St. Peter is a priestly society. Institute of Christ the King is a priestly society, and the Congregation of Mary Immaculate Queen is a priestly society. These are groups run by priests, okay? And I said, we need something for lay people who just want to be Catholic, build businesses, and raise children. There's a lot of infighting between the different factions, and while there are differences and problems that need to be addressed among these factions, I simply don't think that, insert priestly group. I don't think that the SSPX or the FSSP is the biggest problem that we face in civil society today. Inflation, immigration, war, and AI are all threatening to completely erase the world that we were born into, and it could possibly decimate entire communities and economies. And I am, and I hope you are willing to work with anybody. I mean, not just who professes the Catholic faith, I guess, I'll work with literally anybody that, we agree 80% of the way. But in the context of this post, I was addressing it to Catholics, saying that I hope that you're willing to work with people who, to the best of their knowledge and ability, profess the Catholic faith, whether they go to the Novus Ordo or the Indult, if they're Sedevacantists, SSPX. And I think that there are a lot of people out there who agree. The boomers had the luxury of going their own way, but millennials and younger simply aren't going to make it on our own. We need each other. We need to be able to work together. We need to be able to act collectively as a group. I'm not saying the trads need to go to the Novus Ordo or that the Novus Ordo people need to go to the Latin Mass. I'm just saying that for the sake of our children, we need to find ways to heal the division and work together to build a better world than the one that we inherited. The disunity that has come about in the wake of the spiritual nuclear bomb that is the 60s, exacerbated by social media, it's a curse. It's a scourge on the Catholic laity, and we need to find ways to meet each other where we are and work together and build for the future instead of waiting for the imminent collapse, the chastisement, the 3 days of darkness that are just around the corner. And so, there's people that will be in the SSPX, or people that will claim the SSPX is schismatic. I'm looking at you, E. Michael Jones. There's people that will be calling the Novus Ordo people modernists, and, no one's going to stop that from happening. They're going to say what they're going to say. Let them say it. But they shouldn't stop you from getting together with your neighbors and your community and building something for your kids and your future. And so I'm very white-pilled. I've been very white-pilled recently. There's been a lot of really positive things happening. People waking up and smelling the coffee and understanding that, we don't live in 1996 or 2006 anymore. This is 2026 and, most of history's a lie. We did a big episode on the SPLC thing. How much of this modern crap, arguing about hate movements and the KKK and all of this, that was all fake. It was all funded by the SPLC. They were creating the extremism that they were fighting against. And so if you haven't watched that episode, you should definitely go check that out. One caveat, I have lots of guests on this show. Lots of guests. And the point is for people to share their opinions with one another. And just because somebody comes on the show and shares their opinion, that does not mean that it is the opinion of the show. So, I know Gavin McInnes said something about the organizer of the Unite the Right rally, Jason Kessler. That is not my position, that he is some sort of informant. It is not the position of the show that he is some sort of an informant or whatever. We're going to have discovery. And I said this on the show last week. We're going to get discovery. We're going to find out who F-37 is in this SPLC indictment that was launched by the DOJ last week. And so just want to make that very clear here that, just because somebody comes on the show and says something crazy does not mean that I necessarily agree with it or that the show agrees with it. The point is to hear different points of view, challenging points of view that are different from your own. And you can make up your own mind based on your own feelings or vibes or evidence or whatever. So just wanted to put that out there. And by the way, I guess if Jason has an issue, then get in touch with me, man. You know my email address and my phone number. You can call me, but you haven't. So anyway, well, that's all that I've really got for you today. Thank you so much for joining us. We had a good group of people watching over on X, on Rumble, on YouTube. Make sure that you're following us. Make sure that you're sharing these shows with people that you think will benefit from it. I think that it's really critical to have some of these tougher conversations, deep conversations, and it's not just the same frickin' talking points over and over again. Have you looked at the crime statistics? Yes, we've looked at the crime statistics. Now I would like to know what the fuck to do with myself. I would like to know how to, build society, how to be resilient. Where should I be going? As opposed to just harping on the same talking points that have been around for 50 or 60 years. It's time to build for the future. Anyway, thank you all for joining us. Easter Rising fan. Okay, I'm probably not saying that right, but thank you for... he says some interesting things in the group chat. I wish Catholics would start raising their kids similar to Mormons, where they encourage them to go into great paying jobs. Yeah, no kidding. I know, right? But there's been a lot of argumentation about this, right? Because it's like, we still need the elite, right? And, I think, Nick and his movement, America First, they're infiltrating the institutions. They're going to college. But then there's also just like for the average person, you're not stupid, but you're not like a ridiculous high IQ. I do think that the trades are a very good way to go. Construction, plumbing, electrical. You can make a very good living doing work like that. That stuff is not going to be automated anytime soon. You're still going to need human plumbers to be, crawling around and fixing the sink and stuff like that. So, it's going to be interesting. Mennonite businessmen help fellow parishioners who need a job, particularly teen Mennonite couples having a baby. Mennonites and Amish help their own like Mormons do. Yeah, why can't Christians be more like the Amish? Honestly, the Amish, the Mennonites, the Mormons, They get it. The Jews get it too, by the way. If you haven't ever been to like a Jewish community and seen the way that they patronize one another's businesses, they look out for their own, they provide their own security. This is smart, actually. And, you know, I got to give credit where it's due. But anyway, thank you very much for joining us tonight. It was a pleasure being here with you all. I hope you have a great rest of your week. I might jump on and do a surprise stream on Friday. And then, like I said, look out for an interview with Justin Stam later this week. This is The Backlash. Thank you so much for joining us. God bless you, and have a good night. Bye-bye.